pause for a minute here, right? And remember two words: chance and experiences. Those are two things that define me, and I'm guessing that for you, all of you out there, it'll be quite similar. The chances that we had in life and the kind of experience of the people that change the way you are and what you do. So India, incidentally, is 121st ranked out of the 141 countries on the Global Child Development Index. What does that mean? That means we're doing quite bad. Why is that? Because 40%, we have 40% of the children in India, which accounts for 440 million children, they have an urgent need of care and protection. Now, what does that mean again? So what that means is there are 440 million children who are below the age of 18 years, and 40% of them do not have safe homes to go to. 40% of such children do not have parents who can protect them from risks. Now, what are risks? Risks are essentially being exposed to sexual abuse, exposed to child labor, exposed to child marriage, and a lot of other things. So what that means is, it's a whopping 176 million children who at this moment is exposed to severe risks and needs childcare and protection immediately. And if for a country that contributes, that's the second contributor to the world in terms of population, it's quite scary that we have so many of our future generation, which is the little children now, who's in that state. So let's look at some of the consequences of that. What that does is, for every 3 children who have a safe home to go back to, there are 2 children who don't and are neglected and who are homeless. For every 3 children who finish their 12th grade, there's an embarrassing 97 children who drop out. And out of every 100 crimes registered in India, 56 of those crimes are done by young adults from neglected backgrounds. So what does that mean? So yes, we have 176 million children who need care and protection, so it's fine. We lack resources. We have a lot of trouble. So yeah, fine. This is one of those other things that India needs to fix. But no. It's much more important than that, because as you can see, those stats drastically affect our society. And as you can see, the future of any country is its youth. It's the children. And that's why these stats are superbly scary. So now you might wonder, so we have an amazing government, right? We're a democracy. What's the government doing about it? I'm sure they're doing something about it. The news would have gotten to the parliament, right? It's about time. Yes, they are. The government is. And there is a system for such children. And the system is orphanages, street shelters, and juvenile homes. They're institutionalized homes. They're substitutes for the homes that the children should have had. And how are these homes? They're not so bad. It's the best the government could do, given there are 176 million children out there that need it. There are thousands of such institutions across the country that the government has set up. And that's great. But what's missing? Are these institutions the same as homes that you and I grew up in? They're not. So are these institutions doing what they should be doing, which is childcare and providing opportunities to children while they grow up? No, they're not. Let's look at why. Let's look at the kind of homes that you and I grew up in, right? And let's compare that with the kind of institutions or the institutionalized homes that are there across the country. So there's a list of things that does not exist in institutionalized homes that's very, very essential for child development. 1, they lack caregivers. So naturally, we had 2 parents. And I'm guessing that most of us would have grown up a maximum of 6 kids, possibly, right? That is still a 1:3 ratio, which is what is recommended by the UN. Any guess as to what is the child to adult ratio in an institutionalized home? It's 1:50. 1 adult, 1 caregiver to 50 children. Now imagine that. Imagine you having to take care of 50 children day in and day out and being able to provide for them. That's next to impossible. That's the first part. Second, lack of education support. All children in institutionalized homes, or at least most children, go to government schools. And government schools are also struggling from lack of resources. So lack of education support. Third, lack of emotional support. Fourth, lack of exposure. Fifth, and one of the most important factors, lack of funding. Interestingly, India spends 0.1% of its GDP on its young people. That's it. 0.1%. And do you know what percentage of our population makes up for people under 18 years of age, the young population? What percentage of our overall population? 40%. So what that means is, we spend 0.1% of our GDP on 40% of the population that will define the future of the country. Isn't it a no-brainer that maybe we should do a little bit more planning? But that is the reality. That is the reality, and it is affecting 176 million children and more today. But then again, so the government has set up institutionalized homes. Let's take a look at what happens, what's going on in institutions, right? As you can see, the primary children in institutionalized homes are children from impoverished backgrounds. What does that mean? They're children from caught with substance abuse, criminal activity, domestic violence, and hence they're at the shelter home. They're denied education, they're child labor, children who've gone through sexual abuse. All these kinds of children end up in an institutionalized home. And then what happens? What is the environment in the observation homes or the institutional homes, institutionalized homes, that's going to change this? Nothing much. What they're exposed to, or what happens is, it's a prison-like condition. There's violence between peers, because they're children from all sorts of backgrounds. There's malnourishment, malnutrition, unhygienic condition, and no interaction with children. Caregivers don't interact with children, so there's very little emotional support. What's likely to happen? More crimes, more children going into substance abuse, more children going into being influenced by negative influences in the society. By now you should be thinking, it's about time the government did something about this. Do you agree? Do you think that the government should do more than what they're currently doing? I would say yes, there is scope, but I think we should be doing a lot more than what we're doing currently. What can a government really do? They're good with scale, they're good with setting systems in place, but the quality of execution will definitely suffer with scale. Unless maybe we could debate that pumping more funding into this, or maybe a better strategy would improve the conditions. Yes, it might, but not for the long term. It will not be a sustainable solution. So what is the one big solution that we know for a fact if we stick to, this can be addressed, this problem can be solved? And what is that problem? Go back to the 18-year-old boy. Put yourself in his shoes again. What is the one thing he's asking for? He's asking for somebody who would guide him through this phase. A parent maybe, a mentor, or maybe just a friend. How will the government provide that? Or can they? Or is the government the best people to provide that? Matt believes not, or I believe not. The solution to this is activating communities. So let's look at this, right? Let's take Vellore. Let's take one shelter home in Vellore. Kasam. Kasam has 100 children. Let's do an estimation here. Any shelter home, any community in a city like Vellore would have at least 20,000 people living around it. What does that mean? 100 children have 20,000 people living around the shelter home. Now the 20,000 people took ownership for that one shelter home and provided the children with whatever the children needed. You think that could solve the problem? You think that could solve the problem? Maybe. But then you could argue that, getting 20,000 people, each and every one of them to dedicate to one shelter home may be a push. So let's get realistic. Let's say every 1 in 200 people, that's all you need. Every 1 in 200 people adopting one child in the shelter home. Mentoring one child in the shelter home. Being their friend. That's all it takes. That's all it takes to solve this problem. Because that's all a child in a shelter home needs more than what he's getting right now. Now the question is, how do we go about activating communities? Do we go about talking to everybody around and saying, let's get up and do this for our kids? I'd still say we have another silver bullet. We have a catalyst in each and every one of our communities. And the catalyst is you and I. The catalyst is the young people. The catalyst is the youth. The empowered lot. Why? Because youth comes with passion. They're innovative. They have the drive. They're willing to go the extra mile. And in India, the youngsters need a channel. Need a channel to understand social problems. And this is a great platform to really understand what's going on the other side. And possibly creatively solving that for the country. And that's exactly what MAD is doing. Make a Difference is a youth movement spread across 23 different communities, activating over 2,500 youngsters to mentor children in their communities, children in their centers. And at this point, we have 10,000 odd catalysts who've passed through our movement. We have 20,000 odd youngsters who signed up to join the movement, and we have over a lakh supporters on our fan page talking about this change. So my team, the MAD guys, we believe that this change is possible. This is our dream. Our dream is what keeps us going day in and day out. Our dream has become our oxygen. It is to get the 176 million children, that number, clean it down to zero. Completely redefine the way children at risk is currently looked at in India. And the mad movement will not stop until we've gotten there. The movement will persist. The revolution in the country will go on until every single one of those children at risk is no longer at risk but moves over to the empowered lot. Thank you.